Welcome students for this lecture on irrigation engineering subject code 1615505 on gravity dams. This is the second lecture on gravity dams. In the previous lecture we have seen about what is a gravity dam and what are its advantages and disadvantages, their typical cross sectional views. Okay, in this video we are going to watch the Fine. These are the forces which are acting on the gravity dam, which I have mentioned below. The first one is the water pressure, second one is uplift pressure, the third one is pressure due to earthquake forces, fourth one is silt pressure, fifth one is wave pressure, and sixth one is ice pressure. And the final one is the stabilizing force which is generated from the weight of the dam to oppose the pressure from the water. Okay. Okay, as we seen in the previous slide, we have seen the first pressure which is acting on the gravity dam is the water pressure. Generally, if you see the water pressure acts in the upstream portion of the dam. Since the water which is stored behind the dam acts as a external force or a pressure acting on the body of the dam from its upstream side. This is a major external pressure. That means it causes more amount of pressure to be acting on the dam, and the forces generally become more and more increasing if the water level increases to its maximum pool level or maximum capacity. Okay, this is the first point in the water pressure region, and the second point is the water pressure from the upstream portion of the dam can be calculated by the hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram. Okay, what is a hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram means? The force of the dam actually to be measured like a triangular like a triangular shape. You can consider the force as a triangular shape. That means the water is acting in a horizontal way on the body of the dam in its upstream side. Like it comes and hits the dam from its upstream side, like behind. Okay, it is generally taken as a triangular shape, and thus it is shown as a hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram in the next slide. Okay, let's move on. Okay, on the previous slide, I have explained you about the hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram, and this is the hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram. Actually, we differentiate this hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram into two cases for a gravity dam. The first one is, case one is upstream face of the dam is vertical. You can see the upstream face of the dam is literally vertical. That means this is straight. Okay, this is the marking I have made is straight. This is vertical, and the intensity is 0 at the water surface. Then the pressure equals to WH, which means that if the water surface that is present behind the upstream side is developing a pressure which is equal to W into H. The pressure which is developed, again I am saying, the pressure which is developed at the upstream face of the dam due to the wave pressure has an intensity which is equal to 0. Okay, and then you can see this pressure value like P1 is equal to W H squared by 2, and you can see H by 3. H by 3 is nothing but the pressure which is acting at a height of H by 3. Okay, at a height of H by 3. Here W into H is there at the base portion of the dam. I am going to explain what is this. Okay, and how the pressure P1 has come. Okay, generally if you see this diagram, it is like a triangular portion. If you see this red marking which is present on the diagram, it is like a red marking. This and inside the triangular portion there are so many arrows. These arrows are nothing but the arrows which is given due to the wave pressure which is generated from the upstream side of the dam. Okay, the water which is present on the upstream side generally exerts this wave pressure, and generally it is being denoted as a arrow. Okay, then what is this pressure? I am going to explain what is this pressure. Okay, you can see W into H, the base portion. Generally if you take the area of a triangle, the area of a triangle is A is equal to half into BH. right? So if you take this like the breadth, the breadth value is half into breadth is, you can see literally what is the breadth, W into H. Since we are speaking about the upstream portion, don't see the downstream portion, look at the upstream portion. Okay, W into H, W into H into this H. This H is the overall height of the dam up to which the water is being stored, the max or the maximum capacity of the dam. Okay, it's taken as another H. Okay, then if you multiply this, you can get the half into W into H squared. Okay, this is what the pressure which is developed on the upstream portion. Okay, this is the this H by 3 is the horizontal depth. This actually, if you see this, I am saying this is height. Okay, this is also known as the horizontal depth up to which the water is being stored in the dam. Okay, could you understand it? Okay, fine. Fine. In the previous slide, I have explained you what is the hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram and what is the case 1 of the hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram in a gravity dam. Okay, I'm going to explain it again. When the dam is vertical and the water surface which is present behind the dam has an intensity 0, then the pressure is equal to W into H. Okay, when the intensity is 0, okay, understand it carefully. When the intensity is 0, it's W to H. If the intensity increases, okay, if the intensity increases to an height of H by 3, okay, to an height of H by 3, then the pressure P1 is equal to W into H squared by 2. Okay, when the intensity is 0, pressure is WH. When the intensity increases to an height of W, into a height of H by 3, then P1 is equal to WH squared divided by 2. Okay, understand the concept. Then what is the components, like what are the, in the formula you can see WH. Okay, which means that W is unit weight of the water, as you have studied earlier, and it's 9.81 kilonewton per meter square, which is a constant value, and H is the depth of the water. Okay, and the total pressure which acts in the horizontal direction on the upstream side at an height of H by 3, which has been denoted in the diagram. Okay, then the final resultant force from the pressure due to water at which is acting at a height of H by 3 is W into H squared by 2. Fine. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained you about what is case 1 according to hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram, where the pressure which is acting at the upstream portion of the dam, when the intensity of the intensity is 0 at the water surface and the pressure is equal to W into H, when there is when there is no water is available at the upstream portion, and when there is water at the upstream portion, the pressure which is generated is WH squared divided by 2, and the intensity will be like in numbers. Okay, but in case 2 we see when the upstream portion is like partly vertical. Okay, I will draw you and show what is it looks like. You can see the portion which is at the top portion, like this one I am marking now. This is like vertical, and the second one which is like inclined. Okay, like there are two different components. You can see there is a square, like consider this one. This one is like a square, right? And this one down portion which is like a triangle. Okay, like an inverted triangle, and there are two forces generally. Okay, so one is acting at its top, like this, up to this half portion, like up to this half. Okay, and the another one which is acting at its downside. Okay, generally the breadth is, total breadth of the dam is capital B. Okay, and the breadth of up to which the pressure is acting is this B. Okay, which is small b, and W into H, you know very well, the unit weight into height up to which the pressure is being acting, the overall pressure. Okay, then the H by 3 is the height up to which the overall pressure is acting. Okay, that is explained in the previous slide too. And I have written these two types of horizontal and vertical components, which is being derived when if you see, this is like a rectangle, right? I mean like a square, right? So you know the area of a square is like L into B. Okay, okay. Length is like B. Okay, this B. And height, you know, which is the height of this portion only, this vertical portion only. Okay, then this is H2, and W is as you know, which is unit weight of water. Okay, and after this we can see the inverted triangular portion, which has an area half into BH. You know, I explained in the previous slide what is the half into BH. And if you see here, it's entirely different from the previous portion. Like it has a inverted triangle only up to half of its portion, half of the portion of the dam on the upstream side. Okay, so half into B, you know what is B, which is height of this triangle, the inverted triangle. And the W, you know already what is, you know, it is the unit weight of water up to which up to which it's being exerted. Okay, the pressure is being exerted. Okay, this is the explanation for this case 2. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained you what is the hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram according to case 2. And in this case 2, we have the continuation, like four important points which explain the case 2. First one is, in addition to the horizontal pressure, that is according to case 1. This here, 1 minute. This horizontal pressure here is according to case 1. Okay, and according to case 2, another one pressure is also acting, which is case 2. Okay, this case 1 plus case 2, this includes the two vertical and horizontal pressures, which I have explained in the previous slide. Okay, this pressure which is acting on the upstream sloping side is due to water column. Okay, the water column which is acting on the inclined portion induces this vertical pressure. Okay, and the third point here explains the tail water, which I'm going to say that is similar to this. If there is tail water in the downstream side, there will be horizontal and vertical component, which is means that in the downstream side, in the previous diagram, you can see the downstream portion. If water is being excessively released through the gates, sluice gates to the downstream side, then the tail water, that is the water which is going from the upstream side to the downstream side, when it reaches the downstream side, it is called as tail water. Okay, from the upstream side to the downstream side, then this also induces and produces horizontal and vertical components. Okay, and these also exert these types of pressure as mentioned in the second point. Okay, and the fourth point explains that the water pressure on the downstream side can be neglected, because whenever the water which is present behind the upstream side, that is on the upstream side portion, exerts more pressure, and which literally exerts a force on the back side of the dam. But if there is no problem, if the water flows to the downstream side, so there will be like literally no problem to the dam. Okay, it easily, the water will pass away, and it does not affect any of the dam's foundation or any of its structural components. Okay, this is the fourth point. Fine. Okay, on the previous slides, we have seen the hydrostatic pressure distribution diagram, which has been created due to the wave pressure. That is the first pressure. And the second pressure which is being induced in the dam is uplift pressure. This uplift pressure is due to the water seepage through the body of the dam. Okay, whenever the water seeps through the body of the dam in the upstream side or in the downstream side into the foundation, that is the main portion of the dam, and through the pores or holes or any fissures, it may cause an uplift on the base of the dam. Okay, in the base portion, like in the heel or the toe portion, it causes a uplift, that is, it lifts the dam. Okay, literally it lifts, it means that not it pushes the dam, it just lifts the dam and causes a reduction in its self weight of the dam. Okay, it causes the reduction in the self weight of the dam and the stability of the dam too. So when after again and again, due to the continuation of this uplift pressure, it causes the dam failure by cracking. Okay, the dam starts to crack from the foundation portion. Okay, you cannot notice the foundation portion. You will see it literally when after years and years of seeping of water through the body of the dam, and this thus causes the failure of the dam. Okay, so the second important, this uplift pressure must be noted and it should be like prevented from occurring. Okay, so the pores, holes and fissures which are present on the body of the dam or which is being generated in the body of the dam should be rectified immediately while supervision. Okay, this is the second major external force. Fine. Okay, on the previous slide, I have explained you the theoretical portion of the uplift pressure. Now, if you see the uplift pressure in the following slide, you can see a triangular formation on the bottom portion or in the foundation portion of the dam. Okay, you can see the pressure is being acted towards the dam in a vertical manner. Okay, you can see the arrows, it's vertical, and this resultant pressure which has been developed in the due to the uplift pressure is W into HB by 2, which is being explained that it is to like the area of the triangle. Okay, A you know half into BH, right? Half into BH, where half into breadth you know already. What is breadth? B, capital B. Okay, into height. What is your height? Where the pressure is being acting? WH, right? So W into H. So the final pressure which is acting is BWH by 2. Okay, this pressure which is acting acts at the width of B by 3. Okay, not height, B, that is breadth by 3. Okay, fine. Okay, in the previous slide we have seen the uplift pressure which is caused due to the movement of or seepage of water into the body of the dam through foundations. Okay, and in this slide we are going to see the earthquake forces. Okay, you can note that the earthquake forces, you just imagine like a tsunami. Okay, generally when a tsunami occurs, it occurs on its like epicenter. They will say the epicenter is the point or the center portion. Like if you see the tsunami generates like this, like some rippling wave like format at its center in the middle of a ocean or sea. Okay, like this force, the earthquake force also acts the same manner. Okay, it also generates a certain type of wave. Okay, it generates certain type of wave which actually shakes the body of the dam. Okay, it shakes the whole body of the dam, and this causes further stresses on the dam. Like in the down portion, that the major portion is the foundation portion gets affected due to these earthquake forces and causes damage of the dam. This earthquake forces actually like propagates in a wave format. Okay, you can see like tsunami also travels like in a wave, like it travels like this. Okay, right? The same way the earthquake also travels in the same wave format. Okay, this causes the dam to lose its self weight. Okay, it causes immediately to lose the dam self weight and it finally fails. Okay, so we are going to find the vertical acceleration and horizontal acceleration. That means this earthquake forces generate the waves. These waves should be resolved into vertical acceleration. It also acts like this way and also in this way. Okay, so the vertical acceleration to be found and also the horizontal acceleration must also be found. Okay, for our design purposes. Fine, we can move to the next slide. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained to you what is earthquake forces capable of to the damaging of the dam, and this earthquake forces are resolved into two components, that is vertical and horizontal acceleration components. And first, we are going to see the vertical components. Okay, generally there are two cases due to this vertical acceleration, and these two cases have been mentioned below. First one is, this is the first one, where the force which is acting due to vertical acceleration, when it acts upwards, like if this is the body of the dam, okay, like this is the body of the dam, when the force in the down portion acts upwards, this causes the dam to increase its self weight. That means the body of the dam actually increases its if there will be a self weight which is being uh, which is being denoted during its construction time. Okay, after its construction time, a certain self weight it could have obtained, okay, due to the setting time of the concrete and everything. And finally, due to this earthquake forces, there will be an increase in its self weight, okay, and this causes an increase to the stress, okay. Already it's facing stress due to the water pressure which is which is due to the water which is stored in the dam on the upstream portion. In addition to this, earthquake, due to this earthquake force, this vertical acceleration which is acting upwards will also cause the effective weight of the dam to increase, and this is also an additional stress, okay. This is the first point. And in the second point, you can see when the vertical acceleration acts downwards, like if this waves generate vertical acceleration in upward portion, it's like this, and when it acts down like downwards, then it will be like this one, okay. In the downward one, the dam's foundation actually decreases the weight of the dam. Actually, the when this vertical acceleration acts downwards, this causes the decrease in the weight of the dam, and finally the stability of the dam decreases, okay. Hence the vertical acceleration should be like in two types of cases as I explained, and we can see the formula of this vertical acceleration in the next slide. Fine. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained you what is vertical acceleration and how it's generated through earthquake forces. Okay, now we can see the design feature of the vertical acceleration in a practical manner. Like the force which is generated is F, that is the earthquake force generated is F. Okay, earthquake force. And W by G into alpha V is the W by G is the mass of body, okay, the mass of the body of the dam, okay, mass of the body of the dam, and alpha V is the acceleration force. This acceleration is force is generated due to the vertical acceleration, okay. This acceleration is the vertical acceleration, okay, remember that. Then the effective weight of the dam, as I said in the case 1, the effective weight of the dam when the vertical acceleration acts upwards changes the effective weight of the dam, okay. So the change in the effective weight is given as W minus W by G into alpha V, okay. This W is the older W, that is older weight, okay, older unit weight of the dam, and this weight, this W by G into alpha V is due to the force generated due to earthquake, okay. Then alpha V here is the kV into G, okay. KV is the fraction of gravity, okay. KV is the fraction of gravity by into G, okay. Then the net effective weight of the dam is supposed to give us W minus W by G into kV into G, which is equal to W, which is the unit weight of the dam, into 1 minus kV. Okay, this 1 minus kV is the uh, if suppose the vertical acceleration due to earthquake happens, this older weight, that is the dam which is supposed to have at its original time before earthquake is supposed to change, and this change occurs 1 minus kV times. Okay, like W is the older weight. Okay, older weight of dam, older weight of dam. Whenever earthquake happens, this W changes to W into 1 minus kV. Okay, whenever earthquake happens, vertical acceleration is induced, and this is change in its weight, that is overall weight. Okay, this vertical acceleration reduces the unit weight of the dam to 1 minus kV times. The older weight is W, and due to the vertical acceleration induced by earthquake forces, this older weight gets reduced to W into 1 minus kV times. Okay, understand it. Okay, fine. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained you about the vertical acceleration generated by the earthquake forces and its resolution of the components in the vertical acceleration, which is given by the formula that I have explained in the previous slide. And in this slide, we have going to see the effect of horizontal acceleration, which is also induced by the earthquake forces. Okay, this horizontal acceleration is generally denoted as alpha h. Okay, kindly note this, alpha h. And according to von Kahneman, he's the founder of this horizontal acceleration force. Okay, and this pressure is denoted as PD is equal to 0.555 into alpha h, which means the horizontal acceleration, W unit weight of the specific weight of the water, and h squared, which is the depth of the water in the reservoir. Okay, so this horizontal acceleration generally acts in the upstream portion. Okay, if you take a dam like this, and this is the water, and the earthquake forces which is acting in the downstream, that is in the base portion of the foundation of the dam. This generally acts in this way. Okay, this is the water level. Okay, WL, and this is the dam. Okay, and the pressure which is acting here is PD. Okay, which is generated due to this earthquake forces, and induces this horizontal acceleration alpha h. So PD is equal to 0.555 into alpha h into W into h square. Fine. Okay, in the previous slide I have explained you what is horizontal acceleration and the pressure which is generated due to this horizontal acceleration, which is given by von Kahneman's principle. Okay, this force, actually this horizontal accelerating force, acts at an height of 4 by 3 pi, 4h divided by 3 pi. 4h is nothing but the height. Okay, this is the water level. Okay, and this is the height. Okay, in this height the horizontal acceleration actually acts, and which is given as 4h divided by 3 pi. Okay, and the moment, actually the moment is nothing but the force into distance, as you all know. Okay, the force is PD. Okay, PD, that pressure, and 4h by 3 pi is the distance at which the moment acts. Okay, and it is given as, the value of 4 by 3 into pi value, as 22.7. Okay, into PD into h. Fine, this is the resulting moment. Fine. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained you about the horizontal acceleration which is generated due to the hydrodynamic pressure which is acting due to the horizontal acceleration developed on the water which is present on the upstream portion of the dam. Okay, in this second case, we are going to see the horizontal inertial force. Actually, this is the inertial force which is being exerted on the body of the dam. Okay, first one is acting on the water which is present on the upstream portion of the dam, and this is generally second case which is where the force is acting on the body of the dam. Okay, and force which is acting here is, you can see in this slide, is I is equal to W by G into Cn into G, which is equal to W into Cn, which is denoted as W into Cn. I have explained you before what is inertia force. Inertia force, you know already, it's mass of the body into acceleration which is created due to horizontal acceleration. Okay, this W by G is the weight of the dam. Okay, W by G is the weight of the dam which is including the acceleration due to gravity. Okay, and this Cn into G, where Cn is the coefficient of horizontal acceleration. Generally, this coefficient of horizontal acceleration value is between 0.1 to 0.3. Okay, it generally varies between these two only. Okay, remember this constant. And G, you know, acceleration due to gravity. In this you can see like the G and G gets cancelled and it comes as W dot Cn. Okay, fine. Okay, in the previous slides, I have explained you about the earthquake forces and its two types of forces, that is the horizontal and vertical forces, and their horizontal and vertical accelerations and how to resolve them. Okay, in this slide, I am going to explain about the silt pressure which is being caused due to the settlement of silt on the upstream face of the dam. Generally, the silt which deposits on the upstream face of the dam is due to the reservoirs washing off the bed of the dam. Like if you see, if this is the reservoir, okay, the water is going like this, and this is the dam. Okay, this portion, like this reservoir generally rubs the river bed. Okay, generally it rubs the bed of the dam and also the side portions, the side slopes of the dam, and carries this slit from that portion and then directly settles at the body of the dam. Okay, it settles at the down portion. That is the since the silt is weight, since it weighs higher than water, it does not float on the water. It generally settles down, and then it also causes a pressure on the upstream portion of the dam. Okay, this actually this upstream portion is generally deposited with more silt during rainy season, because rainy seasons cause most of the water to be like pushed away with more amount of pressure. Okay, this causes more amount of silt to be deposited at the bottom portion on the upstream face. Okay, this should be calculated according to Rankine's formula, which I have noted here, which is mentions that half into submerged weight, that is gamma sub is the submerged unit weight of the silt on the upstream portion of the dam into H, up to which the silt has been deposited. Okay, this H is the height up to which the silt has been deposited, and the Ka is the coefficient of active pressure, which is this active pressure is due to the this silt deposition. Okay, this silt deposition causes this active pressure Ka. Okay, fine. Okay, on the previous slide, I have explained you about the silt pressure, right? And here is the wave pressure. This wave pressure is actually due to the waves which are flowing on the surface of the water which is present on the upstream side, and this causes the water to move in a rippling formation. Okay, this causes the wave formation on the upstream side, and thus this causes the pressure to be generated on the body of the dam. Okay, this wave actually depends, this wave pressure actually depends on the wave height. Okay, this wave pressure actually depends on the wave height. Kindly note this because it's an important words. Okay, and the wave height can be found by the formula which I have mentioned here, like hw. Hw, you know what is the which is denoted as height of the wave, and this is 0.032 into vf, where v is the wind velocity. Okay, wind velocity is v, which is measured in kilometer per hour, and f is nothing but fetch. This is a new term you can hear at this concept, which explains that the length of water, okay, the length of water on the upstream side, over which the wave which has flown through the surface of the water to the farthest point of the reservoir. Okay, the reservoir actually ends at a point. Okay, up to that point the fetch has been calculated. Okay, the length of the water over which the wave has flown from the dam to the farthest point of the reservoir, which is also expressed in kilometer. Okay, actually there are two different cases actually. This is case 1. Okay, wave height can be formed through case 1 like this, and in case 2 it can be formed as per this one. Okay, when fetch is like less than 32 kilometer, then first case is taken, and if the fetch is greater than 32, then it is taken in the second case. Okay, then the pressure distribution of the wave which is formed is being measured and given in a triangular formation. You can see this is a triangle. Okay, this is the triangle mentioned here. I have mentioned in the red sketch, no, in the diagram. This is the triangle actually formed due to the wave pressure. Okay, this pressure distribution actually acts up to the height of 5 by 3 hw. Okay, this is being mentioned in the diagram also. I have noted here, no, this is the height. Okay, fine. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained you the pressure generation due to wave pressure. That is the wave height. I mean, like the wave height, I have explained what it is. And in the slide, the pressure which is actually created due to that wave formation is going to be explained. Okay, the maximum pressure intensity due to wave action may be given as PW is equal to 2.4 gamma W into HW. Okay, this is the important equation. Okay, fine, kindly note this. And this 2.4 gamma W into HW acts at an height of HW by 2, which is being mentioned in the diagram. If you see the diagram, it could be clearly understood by you. Okay, and you can see it's actually a triangular formation according to the diagram. So actually the formula for the area of a triangle is half into BH. Okay, the pressure which is generated is mentioned as B. Okay, the breadth actually 2.4 into gamma W into HW into 5 by 3 HW is the height, half into B into H. H is the height, and which is 5 by 3 HW. Okay, I'm going to write for your convenience. Okay, half into BH. And if you see the previous diagram, you can understand this equation. Okay, this equation. Then PW is like going to change. Okay, since gamma W, you know, gamma W is the unit weight of water, which is 9.81 kilonewton per meter. Okay, then this you are going to substitute here, and the final value is like 19.62 HW squared kilonewton per meter. Okay, this is the final formula for the wave pressure. PW is equal to 19.62 HW squared kilonewton per meter. Now this force actually acts as a distance of 3 by 2 HW from the reservoir surface. Okay, this has explained us when the wave has formed at its top portion, and it forms and it finally dips, you know, that between that a portion is created. So up to that portion there is this force actually acts, and generally it's denoted as 3 by 8 HW. If you see the diagram, you can understand it clearly from the previous slide. Thank you. Okay, on the previous slide, I have explained you about the wave pressure and what are their consequences, and also their like what is the final pressure which is acting in a formula, okay, by Rankine. And in the slide I am going to explain about the ice pressure. Okay, you can see from the slide itself what is ice. Okay, the ice is generally formed on the surface of the water which is present on the upstream phase. Okay, it is completely the reservoir which is present behind the upstream side, that is behind the dam, gets completely filled with ice on its top surface. Okay, this ice generally extends a expansive pressure. Okay, it forms a expansive pressure according on the water which is present on the which is below the ice formation, and this pressure further exerts the overall pressure on the backside portion of the dam on the upstream side. Okay, this is called as an expansive effect along the dam. Okay, this ice pressure on the face of the dam causes a thrust to be exerted on the face of the dam. Okay, this will further cause an induction of an additional pressure to the water pressure. Okay, this is called as an ice pressure. Okay, fine. The magnitude of this force generally varies between 250 kilonewton per meter squared to 1500 kilonewton per meter squared according to temperature variations. Suppose the pressure is like the temperature is like -1 means like 250 kilonewton per meter squared is being acting. Okay, if suppose it goes to it's just an for explanation I'm saying like it goes more than like -30 degree or -20 degree Celsius, then it can go up to 1500 kilonewton per meter square. Okay, fine. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained you about the ice pressure which is acting on the upstream portion of the dam, and this ice pressure causes the expansive effect on the upstream portion of the dam, right? And like the same thing, the weight of the dam, okay, this is the final pressure which is acting on the dam. The weight of the dam includes two different weights actually. Okay, one is the weight exerted from the body of the dam, and another is the weight which is exerted from the foundation of the dam. Okay, these are the two major resisting forces. Okay, the body of the dam is a entire different structure, and the foundation of the dam is an entire different structure. Okay, you can understand it by watching during the construction phase of a dam. Okay, actually then the second point comes in, the two-dimensional analysis of the gravity dam. Okay, the two-dimensional analysis of the gravity dam, when you are considering it, you must take the unit length of the dam. Okay, why it's taken actually. Okay, I'm going to explain that. Okay, fine. You can see in the slide that F is equal to W into D. Okay, the force, this is the major resisting force, major resisting force. Okay, and W is the weight of dam plus foundation. Okay, and the distance what I have mentioned here is entire unit length of dam. Okay, so by multiplying these two you get the major resisting force for two-dimensional analysis. Okay, fine. And the third point here represents the cross section of the dam. Okay, cross section of the dam is generally divided in rectangles and triangles. I have explained you in the previous slide. Like during the uplift pressure, you can see in the downside portion there will be a triangular diagram. Okay, inverted triangle. The same format we can use for identifying the weight of the dam by two-dimensional analysis. Okay, then the fourth point, the weight due to body and its foundation and their center of gravity can also be found by the analysis. Okay, you can understand clearly by the fourth point that I have explained. And the fifth point is the resultant of all these downward forces. Actually, these forces, the weight of the dam which is having both body and foundation acts downwards. Okay, generally these do not act upwards. Okay, these generally the earthquake forces acts both upwards and downwards, and the uplift pressure acts upwards. But in weight of the dam, only the body of the dam and foundation of the dam is there, and these two exerts the force which acts downwards. So only they have explained in the fifth point as downward forces. Okay, and this will represent total weight of the dam and the siege of the dam. Okay, fine. Okay, in this slide, I'm going to explain you about the high dam and the low dam. Okay, first, a dam is designed on the basis of elementary profile. Okay, this means that the dam, generally a dam is designed on two different types, like practical profile, theoretical profile, and inside this classification there is a elementary profile. Okay, dam which is designed on the elementary profile basis has resultant forces. Okay, the force which is due to everything which I have explained from the above slides, like the wave pressure, ice pressure, uplift pressure, and etc. Okay, these types of resultant forces generally pass through middle third of the base of the dam. You can see from the previous slides I have explained in the from the pressures, various pressures which are acting on the body of the dam, and you can see this value h by 3. Okay, this is the resultant forces which act at this height. Okay, this height generally they act. Okay, and the principal stress which is calculated from this elementary profile is sigma is equal to W into H into minus C plus 1. Okay, this is an important equation, you know this. And sigma is the principal stress and unit weight of water is 1000 kg per centimeter cube. Actually, they have given in kg per centimeter cube, and you know the specific weight of the water as 9.81 kilonewton per meter square. Don't confuse it between this and that. Okay, specific weight is different from unit weight. Okay, then rho is the weight of the material of the dam. Okay, and C is the constant. Okay, fine. And this equation here mentions the principal stress which varies with the height when all other terms are constant. Actually, only the height here varies. Okay, H only varies, others are constants. Okay, they do not vary, they remain the same. Okay, understand. Okay, in the previous slide, I have explained you about the principal stress which is formed due to the different types of pressures acting on the gravity dam. Okay, like the same thing, if you are going to identify the working stress, that is the force which is exerted by the stress, you are going to see this equation here. This one, like F is equal to WH into rho minus C plus 1. Okay, this is like you keep this as a first equation. Okay, I'm going to explain what are the components inside this thing. Okay, in the first point you can notice that to avoid failure of a dam by crushing, the value of principal stress sigma should not exceed allowable working stress F. Okay, if you are constructing a dam, like you are going to construct a dam, you are going to design the dam by according to the various types of forces which are acting on the dam that I have explained in the previous slides. Okay, like these forces, these 10 types of forces are there, and these 10 type of forces are the allowable working stresses. Okay, that you have considered during your design. Okay, this value should not be exceeded by this value. Okay, this value here, you know, this is due to the excess amount of force which is above the calculated force you are done during the design of a dam. Okay, I'm going to explain it again. Like the forces you are considered for your design is this allowable working stress. Okay, and this allowable working stress should not be exceeded to this one. Okay, this principal stress. Okay, if this allowable working stress is below, or it is like very low than this principal stress, your dam is going to get failure, or it is going to be going to be failed by this crushing effect. Okay, which is being mentioned here. Okay, and this H value here is calculated by this formula. Okay, note this because it is an important equation. And the H value is generally assigned when C is equal to 0. So the limiting height of low dam is given here. Okay, after applying C is equal to 0, this is the final H value. Okay, this is considered when a dam is a low dam. Okay, fine. Okay, in this slide I am going to explain you about the load dam. Okay, I have mentioned in the previous slide what is a load dam and the H value, how it should be taken for a load dam. Okay, the same thing in a diagram I am going to explain what is a load dam. Okay, you may see this is a load dam. Okay, this is a load dam generally, and here actually if this is the CG point. Okay, this is the CG point, and this here a weight W is going to act here, and it is going to it's going to exert a force to a height of h by 3. Then this force, like this is CG, this force is going to have a value which is having a constant value, c is equal to 0. Okay, so when h is equal to that equation, h is equal to f by w into rho minus c plus 1, and your value c is equal to going to be 0, then f by w is equal to plus 1. Okay, fine. Could you understand this? Okay. Okay, on the previous slides, I have explained you about the low dam. Okay, in this slide, I am going to explain you about the high dam. Okay, actually, the high dam is generally totally different from the low dam. Okay, generally, you can see this diagram, like the weight, the weight W is going to act to here up to h by 3 for a low dam. Okay, but in this case, you can see the R value, the resultant. Okay, this is for a high dam. Generally this force is going to act outside from h by 3. Okay, this is going to act in the downstream portion, like it's going somewhere else. Okay, this type of force is only calculated in high dam. Okay, so this value is generally for a high dam is h, that is less than f by w into rho plus 1. Okay, this is the general difference between a low dam and a high dam. Okay, you can in the first point you can generally understand what this first point explains. This high dam is a complicated structure where the resultant force may pass through a point outside middle third of the base. Okay, this is the same thing I have explained you right now. Okay, the W which is acting about h by 3, then it is considered a low dam. If this W is going to act outside, that is generally outside from the h by 3, and it goes, you can see the like the curvy arrow that I have mentioned here, and this goes outside. Generally it is represented as a high dam. Okay, so for a high dam the condition will be like this, h1 which is less than f by w into rho plus 1. This force is going to extend up to h1. Okay, okay, fine.